What, for firing? I mean, demoting him?
Yes.
Okay.
In every aspect of it.
But what did he do?
Yes.
The last thing you know when this.
Salut à tous et bienvenue, mesdames et messieurs, à l'émission Tête à Tête. Non pas M. Jean-Claude Sanon, c'est un immense plaisir pour me là avec nous chaque semaine dans la Contilassa, à côté que de grande opportunité pour nous recevoir un invité de marque. Invité de marque, la Livarier. En maintes fois, nous connaissons, c'est monde qui peut-être de la Cavipam, de l'âge PAM, qui paraît beau ici et là. Mais cependant, je dis là, nous avons un jeune garçon qui est là ensemble avec nous, avec lui-même, nous pourrons prendre plaisir pour nous garder lui-même, ça qu'il n'a pas accompli, ça l'a fait dans la zone, qui côté sorti, etc., etc. Nous avons une chance pour nous parler avec Jeff Similien. Et Jeff Similien, c'est un entrepreneur qui est dans la zone là, c'est son realtor, qui campe là, qui a la ganache. Et nous sommes capables de remarquer que, en maintes fois, dans différents bordeaux dans la zone là, nous sommes capables de voir que c'est un monsieur qui est affiché en tête de une série de bâtiments qu'il a dans la zone là. Cependant, jeune petit garçon, ça tout bon passage. Nous devons apprendre à connaître de lui-même et reconnaître lui tout à la fois. Et peut-être exposer l'ensemble avec nous-mêmes va permettre que nous venions gagner une meilleure relation. En devant tête à tête, ordinairement, nous tirons leçon d'expérience par l'autre monde, les n'a regardé, les n'a attendu à parler pour nous capables apprendre de eux-mêmes de ça que yo passé comme parcours dans la vie. Alors, et je dis à Nabdou qu'on a tête à tête là pour plus en anglais que là en créole. Nous souhaitons qu'on soit capable de comprendre ça et nous souhaitons qu'on va balancer le temps ensemble avec nous. Sans perdre de temps, mesdames et messieurs, nous allons saluer ensemble avec nous, inviter nos bonjour aujourd'hui là, qui c'est Jeff. How are you, sir?
Hey, how you doing?
All right, yourself.
Thank you. Appreciate you for having me today.
Nous connaissons créole là, Lou? Ben, qu'on dit...
Je un petit mot. Je parler créole, oui.
Ben, faut-il saluer mon en créole d'abord?
Bonjour tout le monde. Comment on est? Moi, je suis Jeff Similien. Moi, c'est un real estate broker, commercial real estate broker dans Boston. Moi, j'ai un office dans the Mattapan Square, 1601 Blue Hill Ave. And moi, also, j'ai un retail shop dans Carmen Square, qui est le neighborhood moi élevé, Washington Street. And then also, I'm going non-profit pour aider l'autre garçon.
Okay.
You know,
avant d'aller trop l'école, on va commencer trop long. So, I know from back. OK, all right. Cela veut dire qu'il y a espoir quand même. Petit haïtien, ça a toujours qu'à l'année, il pas quitter l'échappée, il toujours a fait le nécessaire à ce que lui capable de suivre et comprendre besoin communautaire, besoin société là. Moi connais papa avant que moi connais.
Okay.
So your father has been an old friend for the longest. So he's the one that is introducing me to Jeff. Now,
Really?
Yeah. Tell me about yourself a little bit. Where were you born here? Give me a little bit about your upbringing.
No, unfortunately, no, I wasn't born here. I was born in Haiti.
Okay.
I wasn't born in Haiti. I migrated over here in 1998, I believe. So
Okay.
first stop was in New York. Went to school in New York, and it was a little challenging as far as just really navigating through a big
So
city.
you mean
in Brooklyn.
from Haiti?
From Haiti to Brooklyn?
Okay. How old were you when you?
I think about 11.
11.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk from 1 to 11.
Yeah,
How did it go? What happened between 1 to 11 in Haiti? What have you done?
From what I can remember, I was to me, I was having a good life. From what I remember, now that I could reflect, from what I could reflect and understand and what I lived, I went back in 2018,
Okay.
and then I saw a different life that if I had lived in Haiti.
So you had started schooling
Yeah,
back
yeah.
there
I went
too.
to I went to College Bird. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah, I went to College Bird. So that was the school that I was in before I came to America.
I see. I see. Okay.
Yeah.
And if you went to College Bird, that means your father was not really a playing guy because College Bird was not for everybody.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. No.
Uh, and I understood, based on your father's experience and his conversations together with me, there was really a nice life. I mean, for a guy who used to run in a yacht
Yeah.
with friends and peers and things of that nature. So,
Well, the life, it was a good life. Like I said, reflecting to what it could have been and what it was going to be. I give my father a lot of credit as for being a visionary to get us out of Haiti and before, earthquake, before everything that happened with the economy. So coming over here, I didn't know why, but it definitely, I know things that I'm doing here in America, the opportunity that I have here. Unfortunately, I would have them in Haiti. I mean, I have a couple of friends that stayed back, and their lives are totally different than my life.
they didn't have the chance that you had.
They didn't have the chance I have here, so.
Any siblings?
Yes, I have 3 siblings. I have an older sister and twins and twin sisters, younger sisters.
Okay, are they all in the state?
Yeah, they all here. Yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, my twin sister's doing better than me. Shout out to Christina and Mama. Yeah.
Now, how shocking was it, culturally speaking? So you first arrived from Haiti to New York, right?
Yeah. Yeah, it was, I mean, first off, we came in January, so it was freezing cold.
Okay.
Sort of like what it is right now. So that was totally something that I wasn't expected. And school system was totally different. Went from wearing uniform every day to just wearing plain street clothes.
I was shocked.
That was shocking. I went from having my parents, my father dropping me off at school every day to just walking to school and eating lunch at school. And my mother used to prep my school for me, my lunch, you know what I mean? And then now I'm eating at the school cafeteria and just picking up your tray. So all that was very different for me when I got to New York. And also dealing with not speaking English and getting into fights. I mean, I got into a fight the first day. People picking on me. So, yeah, it was very shocking and very different from what I expected.
Now, how did you get adapted? Because when you first received that shock, for instance, the lifestyle that you had back there, the adaptations that you have to make here as a child in the U.S., was that consistent complaint going back to the parent?
Well,
How did you maneuver this?
Well, so the best thing that happened, I came to Boston, and when I came back to Boston, I had 2 younger cousins, and they had their cousins that lived, in the same household, and they already had friends that lived on the street, right? So by the springtime, we outside, there's a bunch of other kids around, so now I'm able to, sort of network with kids around my same age. So I was fortunate and I had that experience. And I could tell you by the summer, right, I already started speaking English because I was able to catch up and really just see what was going on with the kids around me. And I started going to middle school and I attended at the time Woodrow Wilson Middle School. So I started adapting to the lifestyle and to the culture that I was around. So
it didn't take you that much time for you to.
No, it didn't take me that much time because I was young. I was, like I say, 11.
Okay.
So my older sister is a little bit different from my older sister versus me. So my adaptation came a little bit quicker than my older sister.
Now, life in New York, well, is different from life in Boston.
Yeah.
And back in the 90s, how was thing in New York in terms of, I know there was issue with cops, there was issue with the police department. There was so much going on around that time. were any of them impacting on you at all?
Well, I didn't stay in New York for that long. We quickly came to Boston because there was more job opportunities. But my uncle still lived in New York, so I would travel back to New York. Fortunately for me, knock on wood, to this day, I've gotten pulled over a couple of times, but I've never had any issues with police brutality or been arrested or anything like that. So I've been fortunate to sort of stayed away from getting in trouble with with the law or anything like that. So
you came into Boston going into high school, I would assume, right?
middle school first, then high school. Then I
Okay.
went to attended West Roxbury High
West
School,
Roxbury
which no
High
longer
School.
exists.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Which no longer exists. Yeah,
No
it
longer
becomes a
exists.
swamp.
Yeah, called the Swamp. West
Yeah.
Roxbury Raiders. Yeah.
Who was the principal back then? Because I think 98. Are we looking at?
Pellegrini, is that his name?
Okay. Okay.
Pellegrini. I think it was like a Italian guy. I think,
Okay.
or something like
Okay.
that. Yeah, I can't believe like that name just came out like that. So yeah.
Any sport that you participated in?
Yeah, I played football when I was there. I played football when I was in school. But, again, sort of the same thing that I realized. So when I came here, right, when I migrated over here, so just at the time, my mother ended up having my twin sisters. So me and my sisters are about 12 years apart. So we actually had to leave them behind and came to the U.S. because the plan was for me and for my mom and my older sister to come here first.
Okay.
Well, my immediate family.
So your father was here.
We all, the four of us were supposed to come.
Okay.
And then they ended up getting pregnant and then had twins, right? So my father basically had to stay behind with the babies and then
I
for us
see.
to come
Okay.
here first, right?
So it was you, your mother, and
my older sister. So the three of us came here first, stayed in New York with my
and
uncle.
so she left the babies.
Left the baby. My mother's tough for that. Yeah, she left the babies,
Okay.
like maybe 8 months, 10 months
I see,
later.
I
Yeah.
see.
And-
Tough
and
decision.
Tough decisions. Very tough. Very tough.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we came here first and got settled and figured things out. And my father, I started being a troublemaker because at the time I didn't have a father. So, again, adapting to the lifestyle.
Yeah,
there.
especially being a teenager.
Being a teenager, and having no control. My mother tried her best to whoop me and control me, but by the time that I hit 13 and going into high school, it didn't, the physical pain didn't hurt
bother you.
anymore. It didn't bother me anymore, So
Was your father trying his best also over the phone with you?
yes. Well, so I'll be honest, right? So again, reflecting now as an older person, right? As an older man, I don't personally think what I was doing is it was troublesome,
Okay,
right?
okay.
It was more so I'm an 11-year-old kid.
Natural behavior.
Natural behavior, right? We just came the night before. We were watching, Michael Jackson or television or whatever it is, wrestling or performing act, right?
Okay.
So the next day you in school, what are you doing? You talking to your friend about it? You enacting it. That doesn't make you a bad kid. But here comes the professor. Here comes the teacher again, who doesn't relate, who doesn't understand what's going on,
Okay.
right? Because I'm a black kid and white woman or white male or whatever it is doesn't understand the culture. It's just like automatically point fingers and target you and tell you that you're this, you that, you got ADHD or you got whatever it is, whatever label that they want to put on you, and then now you have this rapport that you're a bad kid or that at the time Jenny Jones or you need to go to this show or you're going to be a bad kid or you're not going to make it past middle school, past high school. But like I said,
So they already put a stigma on you.
Oh yeah. Since they told my mother, and that was one of the reasons my father even. Like I said, my father had stayed back with my younger sisters. My father had to make a decision, just leave them behind and come here because it was just like, well, Jeff is getting out of hand, And like I said, the reality, it was just me being a kid and expressing myself and just having fun. And obviously, there were certain things that I did where, again, it's just conversation. You know what I mean? Like I think I had like $1,000. It was a fake $1,000 bill. right? I went to school with it. It was a fake $1,000 bill. Like I knew it was a fake $1,000 bill, but like I went to school with it, show it around. But like now, kids who are bigger than me think that like, yo, they're gonna rob me and take it from me. So of course I'm gonna fight back. Of course I'm gonna defend myself, right? So did I create a situation or at school? Perhaps, but again, what did you want me to do? I had to show it off, right? That
Listen,
you know what I mean.
at your age.
Yeah.
But you said something very interesting, Jeff. The fact that there was an issue with cultural competency with the teachers. And very often you find out that in the school systems in Boston, it happens to be a white teacher who doesn't understand the culture. How does parent really get to play a role of not having their kids really being gem in such a situation?
I mean, I think that's it's tough, right? Because you leave your kids. I mean, I have young kids these days now, right? I have two, the 3-year-old and a 2-year-old. So they spent most of their day outside with teachers that again, in my time that didn't look like me, right? So now it's a little different with I intentionally where my kids are, right?
Okay.
So there is some similarities with where they are with their teachers, right? Culture understanding. So I think it's very important, but again, if you're not intentional about those things and you leave your kids with with the teachers for 8-10 hours of the day, now I pick up my kids at 5. By 7:30 they're in bed, so I only have 2 hours, every day during the weekdays, right? Morning, about 2 hours in the morning, we getting ready to get out, and then 2 hours after school, we hanging out and going to sleep, right? So my only time is on the weekend, and I get to spend with them. So if those professors, those teachers doesn't really spend time with them, and there's not a culture understanding, my kid's only going to get labeled. And I have friends that that have kids around the same age, and they already telling me, oh, the school is saying this, is saying that about it. I'm like, how did it determine that? How do you determine what what I mean? What's wrong with the kid when the kid is probably just expressing themselves, or just how they behave, you know what I mean? So,
but avoiding such mess, how important it is when they're having teachers and parents meeting that these views are being expressed so that they can really sink in and understanding sometimes their judgment is misread.
how important it is?
Yeah.
It's very important. It's very important. And again, I think parents need to really be intentional in being in their kids' life and understanding, who's their kids' teachers, the parents meeting, and what is being taught at the school, and who's teaching the kids. And I have a friend of mine who, obviously, my kids is not old enough to have the conversation about slavery, about Black history, and so on and so forth. And he always mentioned that when it comes to that piece, he wants to educate his kid, right? Because the last thing he wants is, the teacher to be explaining, slavery or whatever it is, and then a white kid point out to his son and call him the N-word or whatever it is, and really make his kid feel, take away his confidence or his character, right? So it's important that there are certain topics that as a parent, as a father, that you need to have with your son. We have to discipline and teach your son. So I think this is why I think being a father, the father's presence in the house and in the kid's life is very important.
Very, very,
very important.
Very, although there seems to be a promotion for monoparental, but as far as I'm concerned, it's the other way around. So you move on, you getting into high school and you graduate, right?
Yeah.
What was your next move?
So after high school, I didn't know who myself was,
Okay.
I know I wanted to be in business. My father was a businessman. I saw him hustle. I saw him do his thing. I had a couple of jobs, throughout college. I mean, throughout high school. So I knew I wanted to be some type of entrepreneur, business owner, but I didn't exactly know how to get into college. I didn't know how to go about it. But I was
So
fortunate.
you mean, in other words, the guidance counselor was not really helpful at all?
Not necessarily, to be quite honest.
Okay, or you didn't take advantage of it?
I mean, I think it's probably a little bit of both.
Okay,
Right,
okay.
probably a little bit of both. What I could say, lack of guidance, right?
Okay,
So
okay.
you have a guidance counselor, but guidance counselor has, I don't know, 100 of kids that they are in charge of, right? So there are some kid that are, there might be a kid right now today that's a straight A student, and that's the kid they rather give 100% attention to, and then the C plus student or the
So they're
B
trying to
minus
find
kid.
the easiest target to move on along. And
Well, no, I wouldn't say that you try to find it. It's just who at that moment is more so ready, right? So I would say for me, I was probably a late bloomer.
But isn't there more pride to save the so-called bad instead of just focusing on only the good ones?
Well, there's again. So how do you determine who's good and who's bad?
Well,
Right?
they could. You just said if that one is very smart, they're focusing more on them.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what happens. So if, again, I'm playing devil's advocate, and also with me understanding my situation as well, right? If there's a kid that's showing initiative, that's stepping up, and now wants to do the work, and trying to get into college, or that has the grades, that person deserves to get ahead, right? And again, if I'm in the back of the class, which I was, reading newspapers, thinking that I'm going pro, I'm, getting the NFL. I don't need to, turn in my homework on time and these little things, right? So by senior year, where it's just, oh, my grade is not where I need it to be.
Okay.
That's on me, right? And then it's just like, hey, now if I were to see, if I go into my guidance counselor's office, and he has to deal with the C student or B minus student versus the A plus student, you gotta give a priority. You know what I mean? So, like I said, to me, I was a late bloomer. Not to say that I didn't deserve attention, but there might have been people who needed to be ahead of the class than me at that moment. So, I understand that, but again, there wasn't enough resources nonetheless, right? So
Which is always the
always the issue. So it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to be a C plus student or so. It was just the option that I had. So I remember coming into class and the teacher said, if you don't bother me, I'll pass you the C. Don't disrupt my class. And I was like, oh shoot, that's an easy C. I don't have to do much. I can just read my newspaper here and learn about what happened last night in sports and so on and so forth. And at least I'll get a C as long as I don't disturb them. So I sat in the back of the class, and that was it. Then I had to go to summer school for that class. You know what I mean? Because I didn't do the work that I needed to do. So, it's a little bit my fault as well, just being accountable. But at the time, I didn't see it that way. You know what I mean? I just saw it that, hey, I get to move on and necessarily have to do all the work.
Let me ask you a question, which is, very often your backup would have been your parents.
The back what?
Your backup would have been your parents to step up and see the lack of what you're facing and trying to see how they could find your help.
Yeah.
Were they in a position or able to do anything like that?
I mean, honestly, a lot of immigrant parents are not in a position to necessarily guide their kids
To navigate the system.
I mean, I try to tell my aunts, uncles, and family members who necessarily wasn't born here, who didn't grow up here, right? So I wasn't born here, but I grew up here.
You assimilated a little bit faster.
So I saw certain things. So my experience as an 11-year-old versus your experience as a 20-year-old who came here is two different experiences, right? So how you see it, how you move versus, you came here as a young father. Let's just say you came here at 20 years old or 17. You came here as a young adult, right? Your priority is make money and so on and so forth. For me, as an 11-year-old, it was the best time of my life because I had no responsibilities. I didn't have to do much. And then it would just wake up and watch cartoons, play video games, and enjoy life and just make friends, right? Where compared to my older sister, it was, oh, you're a little bit older, so you need to get a job now. You need to start looking into this, right? So there was an expectation versus there was no expectation for me. It was just more, live life, right? Figure it out. So for me, I had that figuring it out versus some people who come in as a little bit older who has already expectation because they're young adult, they may have a kid on the way, they may have a girlfriend. So not understanding the system, definitely you can't relate to your children, who was 7, who was 10, who was growing up in the American system because you didn't grow up in the system, so you don't really understand what it's like to go to middle school, what it's like to be in high school, what it's like to, to interact with kids. You know what I mean? So my parents did their best, but after a certain, like junior year in high school, there was certain, I couldn't talk to my dad about football and this and that because he couldn't relate, right?
Disconnect.
So there was a disconnect there. So going to college, there was a disconnect there. My father didn't go to college in America. He didn't understand how to fill out a FAFSA. He didn't understand, so on and so forth. You know what I mean? So, and I think there's a lot, that's a huge disconnect with a lot of American parents. I mean, a lot of Haitian American parents who, for them, they may have migrated over here in their teenage years or their young adult years and then have kids. And, there's always going to be that disconnect because if they don't have certain understanding to know, like, look, my job is not to tell my kids what to do, but be a support for my kid, right? Is supporting them. So, because like I said, my parents, I had an older sister, I'll say they learned from that. They were able to not necessarily put pressure on me, but allow me to be free and allow me to explore and figure it out.
Okay.
So I didn't have much pressure on me, which in return, with my younger sisters, it was the same thing, right? There was a lot of pressure. Oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. It's just like, figure it out. What do you want to do? Explore. So I did the same thing with my sisters. Like, look, play sports, join chess club, do this, do that, right? And figure your life out, right? And just explore. So to a point where both of my sisters and the advice that I gave them, like I said, I was there for support. Like, look, you need a cell phone, I'll pay your cell phone bill. You need this, I'll take care of it for you. But your responsibility, just make sure you take care of your homework, you do your work. That's the only thing you have from freshman year to senior year. And they both had full, scholarship to USC, full ride. Nothing came out of my pocket. Nothing came out of my parents' pocket because I learned, right? And I was able.
So
to
your
pass
experience was very helpful to the rest of your siblings. So
absolutely. So I was able to.
So
pass.
by having you being exposed, you are able to at least to accumulate so much, knowledge, and you were able to pass it on.
Yes, I like I said, nobody told me like 17, at 17, 18. Like I said, I'm thinking like, oh, I'm playing football. I'm gonna get a full ride. Somebody's gonna come and see, right? It's like it doesn't work that way. You know what I mean? You don't get discovered. It's not like somebody came and just watched you. Then there's been tape. You have to submit tape to the coach, right? And that has to be conversation. Scouts, right?
Yeah, right.
There's a process to it, but again. Being 11, 13, right, going through life and just, oh, man, football is cool. I'm going to play football, right? I didn't have a father to say, this is what you like, son? All right, I'm going to make sure that you succeed in this. I'm going to make sure I find you a strength training coach. I'm going to make sure I find you a speed coach, a hand agility coach, or you know what I mean, and invest into that.
And there's an investment also.
There's investment into that, right? Yeah. Like I have friends who are my age and had kids early on, and they at AAU games, they in DC, they in this place, right? And I'm like, wow,
it's expensive.
It's expensive, and that's the investment. Right, I didn't have that investment going on. My father and my mother had, other responsibilities because they have other kids that they are taking care of. But that investment, a lot of times, Haitian parents who have 3, 4 kids are just working or not necessarily investing to that kid's ability, whether he's a piano player, whether he plays a saxophone, whether he's an artist, whether he is, whatever it is, right? A lot of time, that investment to make sure that kid, becomes excellent and become a master, become great at that, and one of a kind, usually doesn't happen in that. And parents don't understand that. Haitian parents just want you to be an engineer, whatever it is.
How do you see this? Kids who in return ended up blaming their parents because they didn't provide them with such a support.
I,
How do you balance this out yourself in terms of telling them what's fair and what's not fair in their decisions?
So I think it all depends on who I'm having a conversation with.
Okay.
If that person is like over 30 and is trying to blame his parents, I'm like, yo, bro, you can't be blaming your parents after a certain age. After a certain age, you know what I mean? You had opportunity, you had chances, right? That investment didn't happen early on, right? But you had opportunity for you to say, you know what, I can invest in myself, right?
Okay.
For example, me being a commercial real estate broker, right? It's me realizing like, oh wow, I could have been a sports agent if I had known to focus in sports, right? Instead of me going to business management, I could have went to school for sports management, right? It could have been a conversation with my dad saying, "Hey, Dad, I want to be a pro player," and Dad could have been like, "Son, you could get hurt and tore your ACL, but you need a backup plan. And if you're gonna be in sports, you could be a doctor, sports doctor, a sports manager, or so on and so forth within that line." And it could have been like, "Oh, you're right, Dad. Cool." Right? My conversation was just like, "Oh, you're in business, so I'll just learn business." All right, cool. Right? So there's that conversation that it's that investment. So if that investment doesn't happen because there's a disconnect, right? At 24, you have to realize, oh, wow, there's a disconnect with me and my dad because he doesn't understand that. At 25, 27, 28, there has to be an age where you realize, and it's like, oh, I can't hold on to this anymore. I have to forgive my parents because they didn't know any better.
We got to roll back because time is also of an essence, and I know that we're having joyful conversations. Going into college was kind of difficult. You could not make up your mind and so on and so forth, but eventually.
Yeah, college, like I said, I just didn't really didn't know what I wanted to do. You know what I mean? Like the expectation versus the reality, right?
Okay.
So again, like I said, the expectation was, oh, I wanted to go pro, I want to go play in NFL, and it was just like, you don't have the attributes, right?
Okay.
So it
Okay.
was just
Yeah.
have to bring it back here into the reality, right? And then the
Okay.
reality was just like, okay, you could go to Curry College and play D3 football,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
And it's like, all right, I'm gonna go to play D3 football. Versus, I wanted to, the Miami and what I was watching on television and wanted to play D1 sports and thinking that, I could go to the next level.
Now, although you didn't make it that far, any regrets or anything that you could have done
Absolutely
differently?
not. Absolutely not. Because, like I said, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. I made the decision that I wanted. Right. The only thing it's your starting point, right? Your starting point is important, and like I said, the investment. That was the difference, right? During my games, I didn't have anybody come in and record my games and have tapes and talk about what I need to improve on the next year, the next game, and so on and so forth. Those things, you know what I mean? Like that investment didn't happen, and it's not to blame anybody or whatever it is. That was just the life. That was just my situation, my reality. So,
But here you are moving into business school.
yeah. So that was and honestly, like I said, I didn't work hard enough. I didn't do a lot of those things as well. Like I said, because I'm able to reflect and be honest with myself, and there was no regret. Like at the level that I played D3 football, I played at a high level for me. I played D3. I played semi-pro in Boston. We went out to Costa Rica. We played, outside of the country. I played, with different players. I played alongside Patriots players who are retired and, will come on these trips with us and play with us. So, and I had all the fun that, NFL player would have, just playing the same love, playing football and just being around the guys. And that's just what it is. We just didn't make millions and millions of dollars. That's the only difference. But we played the game. We loved it. We had the same camaraderie. I have friends that still from high school, the very first time that I ever played football till now. So, that wasn't what's in the cards for me. And then I don't think I would have loved it anyways. You know what I mean? I don't think I would have loved it. I don't think the lifestyle would have fit for me. Would have fit me over time. So. Yeah, there's no regret.
No, business school. How was that in terms of?
It was great. My first class that really changed my life was critical thinking.
Okay. Okay.
The very first time, the very first class that I took, economics, accounting. I love those classes. I love, like I said, critical thinking was really the class that really changed my life because again, coming in and being a young Haitian man living in America and then like now classes about critical thinking. So it's just like and again, as I mentioned to you in class, you just sit here and then you get a seat, don't do much work. So now in college, it's just like, well, you got to think, you got to use your brain, and you have to write an essay, a thesis about whatever the topic is. So now I have to do work. So that really,
So the whole mentality has changed completely.
Changed, yeah.
It was a wake-up call for
it
you.
was a wake up call because like now I was there because I sort of made that decision. In high school, it's just after middle school you go to high school, right? It's just automatic. But college, like I said, it was just like, oh, where do I go? What do I do? Okay, I could go to Curry College, right? Like, okay, I have to do, I have to attend there and fill out my application and back and forth and, you know what I mean, and do this. So it's just like at that time, it made me realize like, oh, wow, okay, if I'm making this decision to actually attend Curry College, to play sports here, I have some work to do. And at the time, Steve Nelson, who's a former Patriots player, was the head coach there. So I was fortunate to play under him and, and learn football and learn about life. And it was great.
Okay.
Yeah.
And here you are leaving Curry. We're going to where?
So after Curry College, I started working at State Street. Yeah, I started working at State Street as an accountant. 2 years, a year and a half into it, I realized that I should have been in real estate. I had bought a house at 21 when I was in college too. During the time of no dark loans, critical thinking, opportunity presented itself. I thought about like
What year was that?
2006.
Okay, not bad.
Yeah. So right before the market crash, which is another learning lesson too. In its own. But I was able to make that purchase and actually change our life. Because
Was that a single family?
it was a single family.
Okay.
So at the time we were living in Dorchester. We lived in Dorchester, and I started attending Curry College at the time, and I actually saw the difference between the life of living in Milton versus in Dorchester, right? Because like now, I'm in Milton every day, and I'm driving through Milton. So it's not like you just drive because you getting somewhere. So like now I'm here every day, going to school, coming back, picking up my sisters, and going back to the school and staying at school, going to classes, late evening classes, morning classes. So now I see what's going on in Milton, and I see the difference between Dorchester, Mattapan. And I was like, Mom, Dad, we got to move, right? So, the education that Boston Public School provided me at the time versus, Milton Public School is
19 days.
9 days. And I said, we have to make that move. So around that time, I made that decision that I'm getting my parents out of Dorchester and moving into Milton. Like I said, already on critical thinking and figuring out things and doing for self, right? So I'm on that mindset. I had good credit from my very first job that I had at Fleet. Well, not Fleet, when I opened my first bank account with Fleet Bank at the time. And I remember the banker told me, like, hey, we'll give you a $500 credit card. Just make sure you don't use more than 50% on it, and always pay it, every time you use it. I was like, all right, thank you.
And that was building your credit.
That was building my credit from day one. So, and I think I was probably like 16 at the time. So fast forward to 2021, when, we needed to buy this house and we needed credit. My parents, who doesn't understand the lifestyle in America, whenever you get a credit card offer, they just rip it up and throw it away. I'm sorry, could you cut my business out? It's like, not educated, don't know it.
Right.
That's not how you do it. So
But also it has its own consequences too, because
it's education, it's information.
exactly, because credit card also ruins a lot of college kids' lives.
It's
Because,
education.
yeah.
It doesn't ruin the kid's life. It's the education. They don't have the
Okay,
education.
all
They
right.
don't have the education to understand how to use it, because this is the same thing I just told you. Because I had good credit, right, around that time in '06, no dark loan, right? I'm working work study, right, at the library, and I have a part-time job at Home Depot. I got a house. I bought a house
Okay.
because I had
Because of the
I
credit.
had
Yeah.
760 credit score at the time, right? So it doesn't ruin it. I mean, fast forward 2008, market crash. I had an adjustable. I had an adjustable rate. I just graduated college now. My debt to income ratio is, mortgage is going up again. I had to figure it out for myself. How do I get myself out of this loan that I was in? How do I modify this loan or refinance at the time? Refinance was an option. And that's when I learned about loan modification and in that process, which I learned a lot from that. And then eventually I got laid off from my job. So the experience from being a homeowner, from acquiring and purchasing a home at a young age, from almost losing the home and refinancing, learning that whole aspect of it, and then eventually stabilizing the home and doing a modification and stabilizing it and getting it back together. So like now I had the experience in real estate. So I ended up getting laid off from State Street. Primarily all the accounts that I was managing were individual who were in real estate. So it just made sense for me to jump into real estate as my next career, as the next path, because I sort of had a leg up on that now, because I own a home. I experienced it firsthand. I went through, through the gutter, and made it out. So at the time I was just like, you know what? This is on me.
Okay.
The loan modification part was brutal. I went to my last resolution was a real estate broker at the time, who was a individual. He's blind, and then I said, man, this person is going to lead you to out of the darkness that you're in, Jeff. And you went.
Was it the financial dude that used
Yeah,
to be on Blue Line?
yeah, yes.
Right.
And I told myself, like, if that's the person that's going to save you, you need to reconsider life, because you just spent all this money in college, you know what I mean, and got a college degree and so on and so forth. Like, go figure this thing out, Jeff. And when I figured it out and got my family out of that situation, stabilized the house, which later on ended up becoming a great asset, given the fact that now it has equity. So I was able to pull equity out and play with it and do other investments. So that's just kind of like with life, you know what I mean? And us being Haitian, you just got to being resilient. So whatever situation, whatever journey, obstacles that you're going through, tough time, is just, it's not about quitting. It's not about giving up. It's really just going through it, because you have to go through this, through this path, through this journey of learning, you know what I mean? And then, the roses comes out. So
I know. We're coming down to our closing wrap, which is the next 5 minutes that have been just allotted. Your name is all over the city.
Is it?
Well, I've seen big signs with your pictures in it. Whether if it's in Mattapan or whether if it's anywhere else. How is life for you in the real estate industry?
Life is good. I enjoy real estate. I enjoy Boston real estate. Like I said, I was able to carve out a space for me in the commercial real estate realm, where it's something that I noticed that was missing. My experience went from fund accountant to property management. I opened up my property management company. Then I went to work for a property management company. Then I realized working for a property management company working for a property management company, managing over 350 units was ridiculous. It's not something that I I wanted to do.
But the experience was worthwhile.
Yeah, the experience was worthwhile.
Okay.
Then I realized doing it for my own doesn't necessarily make me an entrepreneur because I'm working for these, the property owners, and they're able to tell me what to do. So that made me focus more on the commercial real estate side. Residential side, to me, it's more so being a therapist and going in and really catering and to your home buyer, which is something that I'm able to do, but I didn't have fun with it, right?
Okay.
It wasn't something that my experience, like I said, being an accountant and going through this process and helping, what I figured out my skill set is problem solving, right? That's what I got from critical thinking, right? And me removing myself from my situation. My skill set is problem solving, critical thinking, and removing the obstacles and getting to it. So I don't find fun in selling single families, right, and selling homes, but I find I have a great time in commercial real estate and figuring out a space, making this, converting a space, whether it used to be a house and you convert it into a studio, whether it used to be a small boutique, you turn it into a coffee shop or restaurant, or convert a restaurant into an apartment, right? So there is more process to that when you have to navigate through different parts of real estate, right? Zoning and dealing with the inspectional services, right? And building relationships and conversations, right? To me, there is what's the word I'm looking for? There's more fun into doing that, right?
And you feel like you are doing a good service. Two things before we go. When I met with you, it was at
Kings Amongst Kings. Yeah.
Just give me a snapshot of that.
Oh, Kings Amongst Kings are like it's really me finding a way to provide my resources